If you've been hanging out with us on Soil Stories for a while, you already know that some of the best garden tricks don't come in fancy bottles or glossy packaging, they come from the hands of gardeners who learned from the earth itself. Today, I want to share with you one of those time-tested skills, how to read your soil's pH without digital meters, without pricey kits, and without those little test strips that somehow disappear every planting season. This method goes back generations and is still used by Amish farmers who rely more on observation than gadgets, and honestly, once you learn it, you'll feel like you've unlocked a secret language your soil has been speaking this whole time. Let's dive into how you can do the same, right in your own garden, with your own hands, using only what nature gives you. Before we get into the Amish-inspired techniques, let's talk quickly about why soil pH matters. Different plants prefer different pH levels, and when the soil is too acidic or too alkaline, nutrients get locked away. It doesn't matter how much fertilizer you toss in. If the pH is off, your plants will struggle. But here's the good news. You don't need a laboratory to get a reliable reading. Amish farmers, who grow some of the healthiest crops you'll ever see, judge soil pH by observing soil behavior, plant indicators, and natural reactions between soil and, simple household ingredients. It's not just effective, it's a skill that makes you a more intuitive gardener. This classic at-home test is something you've probably heard about, but the Amish have perfected it with careful observation and patience. The idea is simple. Your soil will react differently depending on whether it's acidic or alkaline, and these reactions are, honestly, pretty easy to spot. Take a handful of soil from your garden and place it in a bowl. Add vinegar to one sample. If it fizzes, your soil is alkaline, usually around pH 7 or higher. In another sample, add a bit of water to make mud, then sprinkle baking soda. If you see fizzing here, the soil is acidic, usually below pH 6. The secret that Amish farmers practice, though, is not just looking for fizz but noticing the intensity. A mild reaction means only slightly off balance, while a strong reaction signals you need to adjust. This simple test gives you a surprisingly accurate starting point, and once you try it a few times, you'll be amazed at how much it tells you. One thing I absolutely love about traditional gardening is that it teaches you to slow down and pay attention. Amish farmers rely heavily on plant indicators. For them, the best test strips are the weeds that volunteer themselves. If your garden is overrun with sorrel, plantain, or moss, that's nature waving a big red flag that your soil is acidic. On the flip side, if you see yarrow, thistle, or Queen Anne's lace thriving, your soil is leaning alkaline. Look around your garden. What grows effortlessly? What seems to struggle no matter how much you baby it? These observations tell you more about your soil's pH than most people realize. Once you start reading weeds like a soil map, your whole gardening experience changes. Amish farmers judge soil health by its life, and earthworms are one of the most honest indicators of pH. Earthworms thrive in neutral or slightly acidic soil. If you dig into your garden and find only 1 or 2 worms after turning a shovel of earth, chances are your soil is either too acidic or too alkaline, and both extremes drive earthworms away. Healthy, well-balanced soil should reveal several worms in just one scoop. Their presence means your pH is probably within the comfortable zone for most vegetables. Their absence tells you something is off. Worms don't lie, and once you tune into their presence, you'll realize they are one of the easiest ways to gauge your soil's condition. One of the most interesting Amish techniques is simply feeling the soil. It takes a little practice, but once you get into it, touching your soil becomes something like reading Braille. Acidic soil often feels fine, almost silky, and it tends to clump less. Alkaline soil is usually chalkier, with a slightly dusty or powdery feel. Neutral soil has a moisture-retaining softness that holds together without feeling sticky. I encourage you to touch your soil at different times, when it's dry, after rain, early morning, and late afternoon. Feel how the texture shifts, You'll start to connect those sensations with the other indicators, building a picture of your soil's pH every time you put your hands in the earth. Another old-fashioned trick is watching how water behaves. If water sits on top of your soil for too long before sinking in, it can be a sign of high alkalinity, which causes soil to compact more tightly. On the other hand, if your soil seems to drain too quickly and leaves dry patches, you may be dealing with high acidity, which breaks down soil structure. The Amish pay close attention to this during rainfall or when watering crops. You don't need any equipment here, just your eyes and a bit of patience. Watch the soil right after watering. Does it gulp the water greedily? Does it let water rest on its surface for too long? These behaviors are telling. Once you get a sense of your soil's pH, you don't need chemical adjustments to fix it. Amish farmers rely on organic, slow-release methods that improve soil health long-term. If your soil is acidic, adding wood ash, crushed eggshells, or agricultural lime naturally raises the pH over time. These amendments don't shock the soil but gently shift its chemistry while also adding minerals. It's a thoughtful process, really. Now, if your soil is too alkaline, compost is your best friend. Amish farmers create rich compost from leaves, manure, and vegetable scraps, adding it generously to bring the pH down naturally. Pine needles and coffee grounds can also help make soil more acidic gradually and safely. It's a bit like giving your soil a gentle nudge in the right direction. Balancing soil isn't about rushing, it's about nurturing it back into harmony, just the way our gardening ancestors did. It takes time, but the patience is worth it. This is the part I love sharing most on Soil Stories. When you stop relying on purchased tools and start tuning in to what your soil is telling you, you begin to garden more confidently, more creatively, and more successfully. You touch the soil more often, you notice the weeds that pop up, you observe water patterns, plant performance, worm activity. Suddenly you're gardening with nature instead of trying to force it into a system of numbers on a test strip. The Amish have mastered this not because they lack technology but because they trust centuries of observation, and now you can too. Learning to read your soil's pH without test strips is more than a trick. It's a mindset shift. It's about stepping into a deeper relationship with your garden, becoming more hands-on, more observant, and more connected. If you found this guide helpful and you want more gardening wisdom rooted in tradition and practicality, make sure you subscribe to Soil Stories, hit the like button, and share this with a friend who loves digging in the dirt as much as you do. Your soil has a story. Let's keep learning how to read it together.